Hello there folks, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Now it is a glorious spring day here in the UK and it's an excellent opportunity to do another one of my Rate My Shoes videos in which one of you gentlemen, and in this instance it is indeed a true gentleman called James, who has written to me and sent me some images of his wonderful shoe collection, which I am going to share with you. At the end, I'm going to sort of give it an overall review of the collection, maybe suggest another shoe which I think is absent, but there's a great collection of shoes to look at here today. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about James because he's written to me and told me about himself and his collection. So James tells me that he's been a viewer of the Chap's Guide channel for 1 year, which is a good place to start as a gentleman. And I have actually met James on 2 occasions, once in one of our Nirvana Club meetups and once a bit of an impromptu meeting on Savile Row in London. But he tells me that, let's have a look, he has a particular interest in quality menswear, in wristwatches and English-made shoes. That much will become obvious in just a moment. Let's have a look. He enjoyed watching various videos that I've produced in which I give reviews of people's clothing. And he has sent some of his wonderful shoes for us to look at. Now, he is local to Northampton, which is, of course, the world capital of Goodyear welted footwear. And he has developed an appreciation of quality footwear and built up a collection which he hopes I'm going to grade as Chap worthy. So let us begin. And the first boot which he has sent us here to look at is a Crockett & Jones Camberley monk strap boot, and a very classic but somewhat unusual boot in many regards. This boot, were you to buy it from Crockett & Jones, it would cost £645. Famously, this boot has got 2 warrants, as I would call it. One, Crockett & Jones has the royal warrant, so it's a favoured footwear provider of the royal household, worn by the king maybe, who knows. But also, it has the far less common James Bond warrant, because James Bond actually wore the Crockett & Jones Camberley monk strap boot in the movie Spectre. And as I say, if it were to be purchased at full price, £645. It's a premium level piece of footwear. I'm going to talk about the brands as we go through them. I won't harbour too much on Crockett & Jones right now. Suffice to say, it's a royal warrant holder. It is an outstanding manufacturer of men's footwear. And I think the Camberley monk strap boot is an interesting choice. In a beautiful brown colour. The monk strap, as a rule, is a style that I personally don't feel drawn towards, because that sort of apron which flaps over and is buckled down, in my mind, rightly or wrongly, always puts me in mind of the safety boots that welders wear. My dad was a welder working in engineering, and for some reason, monk straps, that sort of correlation with welders' safety footwear, kills off the style for me. But these are particularly good. In essence, they are not your normal type of monk strap because they're a boot. The monk strap, the apron, is largely going to be out of sight when you're wearing this with a pair of normal break trousers, and it will look like a pair of Oxford cap-toe boots in essence. But it's a nice boot. It's a nice boot. It's a quality colour. I really like it. It's a good addition to the combination. The collection rather, and it looks good. Let's go elsewhere in Northampton now. Let us go to the village of Earls Barton, which is just outside of Northampton, and to the company called Barker. Now, I've been to the Barker factory, and it is one of the better ones in Northampton. I believe, let's have a look. Barker was founded in 1880. Many of the shoe companies came into being around about that time. Today they make about 200,000 pairs of shoes and boots per year, and they've got this great modern factory, purpose-built, not like many of the other factories which have been taken over perhaps and pressed into service. This is a modern shoe factory, and when you go into their factory store, there is a plethora of things to choose from. And James has chosen the Barker Valiant Brogue. If you were to buy this at full retail, it would cost £400. £140 British, although I know that James has told us that he actually bought these at a local retailer for £89. And they are what I would describe as a tealy blue colour. So they're obviously, you know, being a leather, there is the hint of that colour within the brogue. It's a full wingtip brogue. I would describe this as utterly casual shoe. Two reasons, obviously the colour, you know, full wingtip as well. And also, if you notice where you have the sole, you've got the stitching is in a contrasting colour. For me, as soon as I see contrasting coloured stitching, keeping the upper to the sole, it says casual, it says informal. And Barker, lovely shoe company. They make, as I say, you know, about 200,000 pairs of shoes per calendar year. I rather like them. I don't own any Barkers at the moment. I have gone on a different sort of path to Barker, but this is a nice pair of shoes for those casual days, maybe when you're wearing denim. Barker often use the Valiant brogue range to introduce some of their avant-garde colours, and they still do produce a sort of harlequin coloured brogue with many different panel colours, which, if that's your thing, you know, it's going to tip the bill. Now from Barker, which I would say is one of the lower level, and I mean no disrespect by that, shoe manufacturers in Northampton, let's go to one of the upper level ones. Edward Green. I've had the pleasure of visiting the Edward Green factory myself. It is a brand new steel and glass factory, probably the fanciest that you'll find in Northampton. And this is a pair of Edward Green Newmarket Chelsea boots, and their price reflects their quality. To buy this today, £1,460 British. Now, fortunately, James lives in Northampton and he can take advantage of the factory store, and they even have sales in the factory store. And you know, these, although they are very high-end shoes, James tells us that he was able to buy them 60 to 70% off retail price during the factory shop sale. Now what we have is a grained leather Chelsea boot, classic Chelsea boot in essence. Grained leather makes it look a little informal, and also being a brown colour, again leans it towards the informal. But to be honest, this is a boot that you can press into practical service. You could easily wear it with denim, you could easily wear it with chinos. Very, very versatile is our good friend the Chelsea boot. Edward Green, like I say, they've been around since the late 1800s, 1890 they were founded. They've got a store on Jermyn Street, like every brand that we're talking about here today. But they only make 350 pairs of shoes per week, many of which go for export. They're very, very popular in other parts of the world, particularly Japan, I am told. All of the leather panels for Edward Green shoes and boots are hand-clicked, cut by hand, whereas many of the bigger companies, they have presses which will stamp out the leather panels, which then later get closed or sewn together to make the shoe. With Edward Green, all individually hand cut by experts in the factory. Great modern factory, well worth a visit to the factory store. Beautiful pair of boots, good choice James, very practical. And staying with Edward Green, this is the Edward Green Galway toe cap boot. Also would cost £1,460 if bought at full price, but we know James has taken the Edward Green boot. James has taken the advantage of buying it from the factory store. Now the Galway boot has been in the Edward Green collection for over a century, I believe, and it looks it, because when you see this, it has a distinctive sort of last century appearance to it, if I'm being entirely honest. It's very distinctive because you can see that curved arrowhead sort of appearance down the side of the boot, on the side panel, on the Derby style boot. It's a cap toe boot, comes in different colours, but this one in this brown colour, chestnutty brown colour, it's very, very classic, and it's a boot again which you could wear anywhere, doing pretty much anything. What I would describe as a casual boot. This one comes with the Ridgeway sole, which means it's Edward Green's is more, I wouldn't say it's heavily cleated, it's a bit more fancy than that, but it's a sole which is designed for longevity, for traction and grip. I don't hate it, but I wouldn't say I love it either. So, another brand entirely, but again, staying in Northamptonshire, and a brand whose factory and factory store I have visited many times, Cheney. Cheney's been around since, I think it was the late 1800s, yet again 1886 I believe. They've got that great store on Jermyn Street. If you walk down there, go in there, have a look. It's a very nice one to go into. They make around about 1,600 pairs of shoes and boots per week, about 85,000 a year. The company has been around a long time, and in 2009 they were actually bought by two cousins who used to own and work in the Church shoe factory, a neighbour in Northamptonshire. But Church's shoes were purchased by Prada, and the two cousins, Jonathan and William, presumably took some of the money which they had from the sale of the company, and they purchased Cheney, which was a struggling shoe company at the time, and they have injected it with some passion, and they've turned that shoe company around. So from 2009, I would say it's gone from strength to strength. Today, I think Cheney is one of the better shoe brands in Northampton. They also have a very good and approachable price point. And the shoes which James have here are the Cheney Deal R Derby shoes. £475 were they to be purchased at retail price. And they are really quite a simple, classic, elegant, unfancy Derby shoe. Derby, of course, meaning the laces are in a flap system rather than an integral Oxford system. But this is sort of grained leather. For me, this looks like a country shoe. Very simple, but it's a very robust shoe. I do know that it has the sort of standard Goodyear welted rubber studded sole, but it also has a storm welt, so you've got lots of water resistance, and it's a shoe or boot that would suit somebody like me, out in the country, trudging around, you know, in any sort of weather conditions. And again, because of that, it's a very casual shoe which can easily be worn in pretty much any situation. Whether you are, again, wearing your very casual clothes like I am right now, this would be a perfect pair of shoes for me right now. Actually, I'm wearing a pair of desert boots as we speak, but these would be equally applicable. But lovely. I'm a big fan of Cheney. They offer a good shoe at a very approachable price. Now, let us deviate back to a company we started with, Crockett and Jones. And Crockett and Jones, as I said, are synonymous with one character on the big screen right now, and that is James Bond. Because for the last, certainly the Daniel Craig era, they've been providing the footwear of the world's most famous secret agent. And with good reason. You know, Crockett and Jones, I would say they are the biggest serious shoe company in Northampton. I think they make the most profits of any company in Northampton these days, outside of the volume manufacturers like Loke. They've been around since 1879. They've got 2 stores on Jermyn Street, so you know you're never going to be mistaken that Crockett and Jones are very much ensconced in London. They make about 15,000 pairs of shoes per week, but their quality level is a bit higher, I would say, than some of the brands, excluding Edward Green, who are at the very top of the pyramid, but Crockett and Jones, very good quality. I've been to their factory shop a number of times, well worth the trip. You get to see a bit of the factory, and you will get some amazing prices if you can find what you're looking for. And this is one of the shoes which I would say is a flagship shoe within the Crockett & Jones catalogue, and it is of course the Tetbury Chucker boot, famously worn by James Bond, or Daniel Craig playing the role of James Bond, in Skyfall. In fact, in Skyfall he wore 4 different models of shoe from Crockett & Jones, another of which we'll meet in a moment. But the Tetbury Chucker he definitely wore with his grey suit, and that is a very good example of why the Chucker boot is a popular choice for many men. Very versatile. Now, he wore it in black, which does reduce the versatility. Really, if you're wearing a black leather polished shoe, it's going to be formal. You're going to be probably wearing it with a suit or tailored trousers, I would suggest, and that's exactly what James Bond did. But James has got the Tetbury in brown suede. It comes in a number of other different colours, you know, calf leather versions, and this suede as we see. It's a plain fronted chukka boot with, I think it's only got something like 2 holes, shoelace holes. Very lovely. Comes with a day-night rubber sole. So ideal for a secret agent who needs to run around and balance on things, maybe gets into a bit of a fight. But they're a classic, beautiful chukka boot. I quite like when you look at them, they look slightly elongated, the last, and the toe, the actual shape of the toe has an ever so, as they call it, suspiciously squared off look to it. It's a very attractive, very distinctive boot, and it is one of the classics from Crockett & Jones. Crockett & Jones also provide our friend James with their Westgate full wingtip brogue shoe, and in here he has it in a nice brown colour. It's got punching on the medallion, as you would expect from a full wingtip. Of course, the wingtip gets its name because of that inverted sort of V shape just at the apron, at the front of the shoe, which is meant to give the impression of the tip of the wings of a bird. And yeah, this is quite a classic brogue, an Oxford style brogue. The lacing is enclosed. The lace holes are not on flaps. It's enclosed into the integral manufacture of the shoe. Very classic. Comes with a rubber, what they call a city sole by Crockett & Jones. It's from their main collection. Comes in different colours. A very, very classic shoe, and one which you can put into use with your suits, your chinos, your grey flannel slacks. A very, very versatile shoe indeed. And finally, I believe we're at the last one. Crockett & Jones. We're staying with the brand. We can see that James likes Crockett & Jones. Great choice. As does our good friend James Bond, who wore this very boot. It is the Islay boot, which would cost you £655 if you were to buy it full price. The Islay boot, but whereas Bond, I believe, wore it in a rough-out suede in the movie Skyfall, in the penultimate sort of action scenes up there in Scotland, where his Skyfall home was the scene of the final pitched battle with the villain, James has actually gone for a teak oiled leather with a commando sole, and he tells me that they are his go-to boots in winter and in harsh weather, with good choice. Now, I've been long been a fan of the Islay boot. It is beautiful. It is a traditional Derby style full wingtip tip brogue boot with some speed lacing at the tops, quite high, goes way above the ankle, bit of a combat boot style, but the full broguing gives it a very elegant look. I think you add broguing to a boot, changes its complexion. A boot that could look like a work boot, you put broguing on it, it looks like a gentleman's country boot. And that is what the Islay is all about. It is a country icon. And I think it's one of the strongest offerings from Crockett & Jones. It comes in a number of different colours. You can have Scotch grain leather, which I prefer. I think that is the best option. You have black, you can have the rough-out leathers and various other ones. They come in different soles. You can have day-night leather. You can have the full cleated commando style sole. So whatever your option is, you know, you've got something which can fit in with your lifestyle. Whether you want it to wear in the city, you know, you can have it with just a day-night sole. If you're a country lover, such as myself, you might want to go with a cleated, more commando sole to give you the traction that you seek. But it is a bold, very beautiful boot from their main collection. I think it's always going to be there. I've ummed and ahed about buying this boot more times than I can remember, I have to tell you. And the only reason that I don't own the Islay boot from Crockett & Jones is because I own a similar looking boot from Trickers. I'm a fan of the Malton boot from Trickers, full commando sole, big, rough, tough, rugged boot. I think Trickers make the toughest boot that you can buy, but oh, I've been so tempted by the Islay. One day, I will own it. So taken as a whole collection, Crockett & Jones, we've seen Barker, we've seen Edward Green, we've even seen Cheney, a good cross-section of Northampton footwear. I love the fact he's got them from the factory store at reduced prices. That's what I like to see. A man putting his brain to use to keep his wallet in good condition. an excellent collection. But what I would say is you are lacking and I'm sure this may be just a tip of your collection, I don't know. But from what you've shown me, I think what you need are just 1 or 2 full-on classy dress shoes, all right? That you're not wearing with jeans, that you're not wearing with chinos, that you're reserving for a suit. Now, I've picked one, and I know you obviously like Crockett & Jones, so I've gone to the Crockett & Jones collection, and I've chosen their Westbourne, which is an Oxford shoe, which has got the sort of Adelaide styling. So you've got the broguing across the toe cap, you've got broguing around the lacing system in the U shape, and also around the entry to the shoe and the hind quarters of the shoe. So it is subtle, right? It doesn't have any broguing in the medallion at the very front of the toe cap. It's subtle. Now I like their chestnut burnished calf, because I think this shoe colour, when you look after it, when you polish it, when you put, you know, your nourishing shoe creams on it, it's going to take on a beautiful patina. And as time goes on, this shoe is going to take a rich, magnificent colour, and it is going to look amazing as the years go on and the patination takes hold and looks better and better every time you polish and look after your shoes. And this pair of shoes, I mean, you could buy them in black, of course, and, you know, wear them for your formal occasions, but I think this beautiful chestnut burnished calf leather is a shoe which is an investment for the future. It's a leather soled shoe, so it's going to be sleek and elegant when you're wearing a suit. You could wear this with pretty much any coloured suit, other than black, of course. You know, your greys, your navies, your blues, your olive colours, your browns. This is going to be a showstopper. £605, so it's not one of the, you know, eye-watering shoes from Crockett & Jones, but it's a classic and it's beautiful. It is just a suggestion, James. You might already have something which ticks that box and you just didn't share the images with me, but just my observation. So there we go. Thank you, James, for sending the photos of your shoes and boots. Beautiful collection. And as you live in Northamptonshire, I'm sure a collection which is sure to grow as you have the opportunity to visit those factory stores during their sale periods and get those shoes at the prices which we would all love to be able to do so. And good luck to you, sir. I like to, next time we meet, tell me what you've bought. I'd love to hear it. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe. If you want to get involved, send me some images of your footwear. Really high quality, full images of your shoes, and I'll do a rate my shoe video just for you and tell you what I think of your shoes and maybe advise what you can add to your collection. So, James, my salute at the end will be for you. Don't forget, folks, if you want to join me on this journey to Chap Nirvana, like so many of you now, you can become a member of my Patreon community. The link's in the show notes below. For a tiny monthly fee, you can benefit from the additional videos I make each week exclusively for my patrons. And let me tell you, those videos and the interaction we're having is getting better and better and better as time goes on and we get to know each other. Follow that link, come and join me. I'd love to have you on my Chaps Guide team. So, until the next time, take care, and I'll see you again very soon.